I came across an ESPN article that went through all 32 teams and what they should do this offseason, a draft target for them, and a potential trade. And for the Browns, they mentioned not just one player, two players that could be on the way out. So I want to break down both the possibility of Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome getting shipped off. But here's what Ben Slowik from ESPN had to say. I expect the Browns to trade players for picks. Both cornerbacks Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome should be made available, and one will be dealt. For my money, I expect a young, rising team to put a first-round pick on the table for Ward and give the Browns the draft capital they need to aggressively rebuild. So let's talk first about Denzel Ward getting traded, and then we'll talk about Newsome later on. But obviously, Ward, the bigger fish between the two here, is a little bit more intriguing because you're going to get much more in return for Denzel compared to Newsome, but you're also parting ways with what I think is a top 5, maybe top 3 corner in the NFL. You look at his last 4 seasons, and he has never had fewer than 2 interceptions in a season. He's also dealt with a lot of injuries, although 2024 was pretty much his best campaign from a health standpoint, playing 16 out of 17 games, but we know he's had a long history of concussions. It's a very scary and real thing going on for him, but the lack of availability at times has been frustrating, so we have to at least acknowledge that. But for me, when I think about the possibility of Ward getting traded, I go back to Andrew Berry's press conference at the end of the season, and he was asked about maybe some trades happening over the offseason, and in particular, some, tear down cornerstone pieces going out the door. And here's what Berry said. I don't envision an offseason where we are moving on from a ton of core players. I think a lot of the decisions as we think about some of the areas that we may need to be strategically pivot are going to be both short-term and long-term decisions. I do expect there to be some turnover on the roster, but the idea that we would get rid of some of our cornerstone players, I don't necessarily see that as a viable path. I don't want to say AKA, but maybe more or less, if you're going to get a cornerstone piece away from Cleveland, you're going to have to pry them away from the Browns. So if I were Andrew Berry, the conversation for Denzel Ward would start with a first-round draft pick and then some more. But maybe I'm just reading too much into what Berry said there. My gut tells me Denzel's not getting traded. Every man's got a price, and things can change. If an offer comes across your desk, you can't refuse. I remember when the Giants extended Odell Beckham Jr., and they said, we did not extend OBJ just to trade him. And we all know what happened a week later. So these things do happen, and GMs say stuff because they know that because they only speak to the media 3-4 times a year, they don't have to be necessarily calculated, but they could sometimes put out some smoke and mirrors ideas out there of we don't want to move on from anyone because, well, if they say, yeah, we might trade some of our best players, the phones are going to be ringing and the value is going to go down because opposing teams know you are interested in trading away an asset, right? It's kind of like it depreciates. The moment teams know you want to trade a player, well, now you lose some of the leverage. So I'm not surprised that Berry says that we don't want to trade cornerstone players from a, optics perspective of his ability to negotiate a good deal, but also from a truth serum perspective. I don't think Andrew Berry wants to trade away some of the best players at cornerstone positions because those guys are very, very difficult to replace. Now, if a trade did come down the wire, this would be my idea for a fair, capital coming back to Cleveland. Browns get the Packers' first-round draft pick this year. That's pick number 23. And I would say a future day 3 draft pick. 2026 fourth-round pick. I doubt you get 2 picks in 2025. It's just very difficult to see that happening with one being a first-round pick, so kind of something in the future. I wouldn't say it's similar to, but a little bit like take Stephon Diggs, for example. When he got traded to the Texans, it was a future second-round pick. So this way, the Packers aren't really out of a whole bunch of capital for 2025. It kind of evens things out a little bit. So this is a rough idea as to what I think a trade could look like if one did happen. I personally don't want to see this happen. I don't want to see Denzel Ward getting traded away, but I'll let you guys weigh in for me down below. Would you do this trade? Give me a yes or give me a no. I'm typing no. I understand that this is probably an okay conversation to have. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Denzel Ward gets dealt, right? I mean, that is a world we could live in, and I don't think anyone would feel like an earthquake just hit middle America. But for me, I just look at what you're getting in return. You're getting pick 23, you're getting a fourth round draft pick. If you're getting the first round draft pick from the Packers at 23, are you going to find a player that's even close to Denzel Ward? No. So you're going to use that pick on a corner who's not going to be as good as the Warden. Someone sell me on why this is a good trade for the Browns. I'm having a tough time seeing them come out ahead of this in the future. Now, the other corner that was mentioned was Greg Newsome, and that's someone I'm much more receptive to the idea of being shopped off. So let me know what you think about Denzel Ward in the comment section. But next up on the show, we're going to talk about the great nickel corner, Greg Newsome, getting dealt. First things first, though, a big shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. If you want to go to a Cavs game or any other sporting event in your area, a concert, a comedy show, visit Game Time first because they're giving the Dawg Pound $20 off their first purchase when you use code CHATSPORTS. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off your first purchase. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. So many awesome features going on over at Game Time, so make sure you check it out today. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now it's time to talk about Newsome getting traded potentially. So through 4 seasons so far in the NFL, I think we can all agree that for the expectations of being a first-round draft pick, he probably has not lived up to them. Is he a starting corner in the NFL? Yes. I think if that entire draft class was redrafted, I don't think Newsome goes first round anymore, but I bet he goes second round. I'd have a hard time finding, what's the math, 64 better players than Newsome from the 2021 draft class. So I don't think Newsome is a incredible starting corner. I'm not trying just to rag on the guy, but I think he is a quality starting corner when he's playing good football, which he wasn't in 2024. All these are career worst. I mean, 491 yards allowed in coverage. That's the worst in his career. And keep in mind, he only played 13 games. He spent the last about third of the season on injured reserve. 4 touchdowns allowed. Pro Football Focus ranked him 105th out of 117 qualifying corners. His value right now is not very high. And here's the double whammy to it. He's going into his fully guaranteed fifth-year option, which is $13.3 million and some change. So whether he's on the Browns or on some other team, Greg Newsome is getting $13.3 million into his bank account from someone. And with the way he played last year and his cap hit being $13.3 million, I'm having a tough time figuring out which teams are lining up and chomping at the bit to trade for a corner coming off a bad year with 1 year left on his deal, and it's an expensive $13.3 million year as well, which is why I don't think you're going to get as great of a return for Newsome as you might think or probably hope for. This is what my trade idea looks like. The Vikings, who, by the way, go into the offseason free agency with every single starting corner of theirs, also going into free agency. So they need to rebuild that entire secondary. And they could get a decent start on it by trading for former first-round pick who has shown the ability to play a little bit of inside, a little bit of outside, so some versatility. Plus, the Vikings, they've got some money to spend since they've got J.J. McCarthy on his rookie deal, and we'll see what they do with Sam Darnold, but they've got some cap space. And I don't think the Browns are going to get a whole lot. Like, either the Browns can go one of two ways. They can get a little draft capital, which in this case is actually getting their 5th-round pick back from Minnesota for Zadarius Smith, and then giving the Vikings their 6th-round draft pick from that Zadarius Smith trade. And the Browns get $13.3 million in cap relief because his salary goes over to Minnesota. Or the Browns can eat a lot of that cap space and maybe get a little bit better draft capital. My guess is they're going to go for we need to shed some cap space right now, shed some bad contracts, and we'll take a 5th rounder for Newsome. Kind of similar to Jerry Jeudy. I mean, the Browns took on the entirety of Judy's 5th-year option, but they only had to give up a 5th and a 6th-round draft pick. So I think this one could be a little similar to that. So let me know, between these two trades, between Newsome and Denzel Ward, which trade would you pursue? The one that nets a 1st and a 4th for Cleveland, but you lose a top 5, top 3 corner, or the one that you get a 5th rounder, you lose one of your million 6th-round picks the Browns have, and you also gain $13.3 million in salary cap space, but you're not getting a very sexy pick in return. So pros and cons to both. I would do the Greg Newsome deal. I don't want to see the Browns move on from Ward. The guy's from Ohio, played at OSU. He is a Buckeye. He is an Ohioan through and through. He loves this team. He loves this city. And Newsome also has been very outspoken about his love for the city. He's got his charity softball game. He's always been a Brown from heart or to heart, you know what I mean. But I'm having a really tough time signing off on trading the Warden. There's pros to it, and this team definitely needs more draft capital, so I'm not going to stick my head in the sand and go, no, 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 nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. I don't want to see Denzel get dealt, but it's a possibility that I just don't want to see happen. So I'll go with Greg Newsome. That would be my preferred trade of the two options. Before we sign off, let's pick a card. Which card do you want to go with, Reed?
Let's go with Jack of Clubs.
Jack of Clubs. I'm going to go with the 2 of Diamonds. 3 of Diamonds. Oh. And I was thinking 3. Damn it. I don't know. I'm a loser. Oh, that sucks. Okay. I'll see you guys later.